Hello YouTube! This is just going to be a quick little video about how I slightly tweak VASL for ASL starter kit play using the quick counters bar. This makes the game a bit more manageable and makes setting up a quick scenario quicker for me, and I'll show you how I do that. So when you normally load up a scenario in VASL, here I've got board W set up. The quick counter bar has so many things that you just don't need as standard. For full ASL rules, it's great. I mean, it's good to have all the fire lanes, the prisoner things, everything, all the extra counters to do with buildings and building levels. Really handy for quick access, but you just don't need them when you're using ASL SK. So what I've done is I've set up my own QC configurations, which is easy to do. So I've got this one for Starter Kit 1, which shrinks it down to just the info counters you're going to need when you're playing Starter Kit. Likewise, I've also got another one for ASL SK2, which is slightly bigger. It's brought in the extra things I need for guns, things like acquisition counters, gun malfunction counters, the different types of smoke, but still much more manageable. It just makes the user interface a little less cluttered for people doing starter kit scenarios. And it's easy to do. So let's go back to the built-in configuration. And to make your own VASL set up this way, just click on your little VASL menu, copy current QC configuration. This will create a built-in copy, and then you can modify it. So here is the little dialog for modifying it. So as it has all the counters you already need, what I've done is just gone to deleting them. So I don't need op fire. The advanced fire is good for when you fired in the advancing fire phase. It's useful even though it's not a real counter for that. You don't need intensive fire. First fire, final fire, they're both useful to have. Intensive defensive fire, no intensive fire because there's no guns. So you just go through and everything you don't recognise, everything you haven't got a counter for on your set, you can just delete. I keep the residual fires here, and as you can see they've got the drop down because this lets you drop down and pick when you're playing the game. But you don't need anything from the fire lanes, you can delete all of those. The smokes, all you need is the smoke grenade, so you move that back onto the main line. Shift it back up to where it was. Down a bit. And delete all the rest of the smoke. See, in this drop down, you need CC counters and melee counters. You don't need human wave, there's none of that. You don't need the prisoners. So after you've gone through all this, you can change the name of that up here to Starter Kit 1 or whatever you choose, and then it's done. And now in your drop down, in your QC configuration, you've got Starter Kit 1. I already have ASL SK1, so I don't need that, so let's delete that. Yep, we'll get rid of that one. And I've also, so yep, I'll keep my SLK1, SK2. But also, for starting up a scenario, there's a lot of things VASL can do for you which will help you play with the turn tracks, the turn face markers, etc. And all those things can also be dropped into your QC configuration. So for example, here is my scenario setup config. Let's go and have a look through the scenario I'm about to start playing. So this is Hammer to the Teeth, scenario S15, and ASL SK2 scenario. So just to start with, I'm just going to look at the board. So I've already set up the board, that's fine. And I've got 7 turn phases with a half phase there. So in here I've got my drop down for turn phase markers. I want an 8 turn track because 6 turns won't do enough. Can drop that there. Get the half turn marker, put that over the 7 where it was in the other scenario. I'll just select that to bring that to the top so the 7 sits on top of it. And I've also got the end phase marker which will go over the 8. So there, my turn track marker is now looking the same as that. Oh, most of all, wait, there's a little tag here, so there's going to be some allied reinforcements on turn 3. So I've also got that here, allied reinforcements. Drop that onto turn 3. There we go, so now I know that when I get to it, the Allied forces are going to come around on turn 3. Next thing I'll look at is who moves first. So in this one we've got the Germans move first. So for that I will get an Axis turn counter ready to start. And I'll choose the Axis turn phase tile. Most of these things can be found in the counter selection. So let's just bring it out so you can see where they are. So yep, under other. So yeah, and then you've got your phase tracks here, turn markers, phase turners, all the things you need there. See what else we've got from the snow. Oh yeah, of course, we've got to show which way north is. That'll be handy. So I've got that marker here as well. Now we know north is in that direction. But the victory conditions here, the Germans win the game at the end if there are no good order American MMC in building hexes less than or equal to 2 hexes from S6. So I can see that S6 is here, and I've also added to my quick counterbar the hex ranges. So let's get a 2 hex radius, and we'll drag that right on top of S6. So now when I'm playing, there's the little red bar to remind me that that's where the Germans have to clear all the Americans out of to win. By the end of the game, they've got to have no American MMCs in that area. And of course, that's not a standard counter. That comes from the overlays. And just like that, I've got the other overlays. Like I've got a victory condition hex for some scenarios. There'll be a victory condition where I've got to do something in a certain hex. I can place that down to mark it. I've also put various labels that you can fill in. Let's just write test label. So with the labels, you can put your victory conditions down. You could put your counters down here and have a little label saying American reinforcements and just have the counters ready for when that turn comes. Or any SSRs are also great with the text labels. I don't need that right now, so let's get rid of it. And to show you how to do that, that's when the scenario setup. So again, you go to modify your current QC configuration. Let's just get this a bit smaller. So that's my messy one for scenario setup. But in the overlays, let's say I want a new group for control stuff. So let's do empty menu title. Let's name that control markers. And for when there's Germans in control of something, I can put it there. And when there's British and Americans. And these are all from the overlays. These aren't the counters, they're the overlays. Again, you could do it with the roads, these terrain changes that you might end up using. But generally, the only ones I tend to use of the overlays are the victory hex and the hex ranges. The hex ranges can be really useful. But now, like I say, I can put these little controls there. So, oh look, there's German control on that building, and there's some British control over here. Just makes it a bit more visual. These are the kind of things that I'd get my dry erase marker and write on the perspex when I'm playing with a real map. And of course, once I've got all the game set up, I'll still need to get my counters out of here to get my units into place. So I get my American troops ready. Let's get some of those ready to deploy. But once the scenario is done and set up, I don't have to go hunting for all these bits that I'm making it playable. And then when I've done that, I'm going to be playing an ASL SK2 scenario. So change that to my 2. I don't need my counters anymore. Take this way a bit smaller. And there we go. We'll be ready to go. See, super simple, but that modifying that QC bar is really handy. To further my scenario setup one, I think I might also make a few setups for the different nationalities, so I can have the American order of battle, which will have all the squads, half squads, guns, support weapons, leaders, etc. that I have American counters for. I can do that for each nationality to ease setup again, because when you're looking here, this has got everything in full ASL from You get the Swedish Axis, so you've got the Germans, the Finns, the Hungarians, Communist China, all these counters that you're never going to see. The cloaking, your snipers, your air support. So it can be a bit overwhelming, but with those quick counter bars, it's really easy to set up, really easy to find the counters you need when you need them. And if you're playing ASL SK, you're using a lot less counters than full ASL. So I hope that's been useful to someone. It's definitely been helpful to me that I found that out. And I'm going to carry on setting up this scenario, and this will be the next one I do a little after action report on. So, for the time being, happy gaming!